This again, is my audio coming through now?
We can hear you, Matthew.
Oh,
Yes.
fantastic. All right. I've been having some chronic problems with my headset recently, and so good to know that you all can hear me at least. Welcome to this CHFCA member webinar on collaborative innovation being done collaboratively with Mitacs. It is still just 9 o'clock, just afternoon Eastern time. We'll give a couple minutes to for some other folks to come in. Maybe they got caught on calls. I'm Matthew Klippenstein, Regional Director for Western Canada for the CHFCA, Executive Director of the Provincial Affiliate, Hydrogen BC. That photo is a couple years and kilograms out of date, but yeah, we'll set that aside for now. We'll give it another minute here till, at least on my computer, it says about 9:03 or so, and then get going. The basic plan is that we'll have a guest presentation by Marcelo Mora from Mitacs, and then we'll have a panel discussion with a variety of panelists who will introduce briefly and then let them introduce themselves. We'll also have some time for a general Q&A. And we'll get you out of here before your meeting's starting in like 58 minutes or so. That's the broad plan. Just give me one more minute. I just want to make sure, Marcelo, you're all online and all set?
Yes, I'm
all right,
here ready.
fantastic.
Thank you very much,
fantastic. Okay. So yes, so it's about 9:03 by my clock here, Pacific time. So I'll just give a little bit of another preamble briefly. So Canadian Hydrogen Fuel Cell Association, it's the National Industry Association here in Canada for the hydrogen sector, of which fuel cells are a very important part. We are closing in on our 200th member. So if you have any professional colleagues or counterparts whose organizations you think might be interested in joining, let them know. I don't think we have any prizes to give out for member 200, but it is a nice little milestone to be able to mark. CHFCA has provincial affiliates in British Columbia, in Alberta and Ontario. We also work with some folks in the Atlantic provinces, and we are working on figuring out an official proper relationship with Quebec and the other regions of Canada. I've got many relatives in Saskatoon, as it were. We don't want to leave those guys out. These member webinars, about roughly once a month, are a complement to our regular monthly technical webinars or public technical webinars, as well as our monthly member introduction webinars, where we have new members be able to find B2B connections with existing members who otherwise wouldn't realize how well their businesses mesh together. So this is all part of that package. If you're interested, your organization might not be a member yet. We'd love to have you, especially folks on the academic side. We want to be able to help take research into revenues, for the benefit of the industry for all Canadians. And that really, I guess, in a few words, kind of summarizes up this collaborative endeavor here. I will stop rambling. I think I'm like that Polonius guy in Hamlet. And I will pass it out over to Marcelo Mora from Mitacs now. He'll give us an introduction, and then he'll be back to me to introduce the panel with some default questions. And please do use the chat or email if necessary to send us your questions. We'll try to make sure everything gets answered. So welcome, Marcelo. I'll just mute myself right now.
Thank you very much, Matthew, and it's a pleasure to be here with all of you. Thank you very much for joining today's panel. I really hope that this panel is very informative, productive, and fun, and that we all have a very productive panel discussion about the sector. So my name is Marcelo. I'm a senior advisor with Mitacs in the Pacific region. My position is also shared with BC, which is a grant agency from the provincial government of BC. And today, before going into the reason why all of you have connected today, which is our panel, I would like to give a brief intro about Mitacs so you have a brief idea about what we do. Mitacs, we're a non-for-profit agency. We're a national independent non-for-profit organization that has a mission of fostering growth and innovation. Basically, what we do is we use an internship model to help companies accessing talent, partnerships, forming strategic partnerships with academia, and leverage resources that they need to grow, foster innovation, and get all the resources that they need to be successful. How our funding model works, we can help companies such as, for example, Hydra Energy, that one of the companies have used our programs to access talent and having the strategic partnerships. In this specific example, for example, in 2017, we helped Hydra having a strategic partnership with UBC Mechanical Engineer, and they worked together to solve a specific problem on their engine technology for heavy-duty hydrogen trucks. Part of this project, for example, they were able to take up Patrick Stage, who was an intern, a master's student at the time, that worked with multiple interns in this project to develop the technology, and the technology was developed successfully. And not only that, but it was so good that Hydra decided to hire a full-time Stage and later become the director of innovation. So how our programs can help companies such as yours, we can help you de-risking talent, having strategic partnerships, finding that talent early on, and of course, de-risking your investment in innovation and research and development. We have more than 23 years in operation with more than 50,000 projects that we have supported, more than 11,000 partner organizations, and we are everywhere in Canada, in every province, with the deeply connections with all post-secondary institutions. So we know what we're doing. We have the contacts and the network to help you. And of course, we're a non-for-profit, so we're not interested on equity or in anything personal that is not helping companies advance innovation into Canada. How does our programs work and how they can help you? Well, this internship model and having the strategic partnerships can help getting funding for talent that can be adapted to multiple stages. So from product development to exploring disruptive technology, complex analysis, anything that can frame into a question that needs to be done or researched, it's something that we can help you finding the resources to do. And of course, our programs are open for all disciplines, but very soon we will have something very cool and exciting around clean tech. So if you want to learn more, feel free to reach out to me or my colleague Clement that is also on the line, working specifically with clean tech projects and with the companies. And of course, it will be a pleasure to follow up one-on-one and have a discussion with you in terms of how we can collaborate and help. Now, let's go to the chase. Our panel today, and I will give the microphone again to Matthew, and so we can introduce all of our panelists. And I hope that you will enjoy the panel today. Thank you very much, Matthew.
All right, thank you very much, Marcelo. I guess we'll move on to our panelist introduction. So I'll just go through briefly our 6 panelists, and then I'll have them introduce each other in turn. For everyone's simplicity, I'll just kind of go, I don't know, in reading order, perhaps. So we have Jenny Eastcott from Accelera, a brand of Cummins or division of Cummins, Ismail Alvar from Ballard Power Systems, Lucas Sinopoli from Futuri Power, Eric Kiang from Simon Fraser University, Martin Ordonez from UBC, and then Samane Chagaldi from University of Quebec at Trois-Rivières, or UQTR, as it's sometimes abbreviated. So first I'll ask Jenny, perhaps would you like to give a minute introduction to yourself and Accelera's activities, historical background?
Sure. Thanks, Matthew. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for inviting me today. My name is Jenny Eastcott. I've been working with Accelera by Cummins for 5 years now out of their Mississauga division. Some of you may be less familiar with the Accelera by Cummins name since we just launched it in March. And essentially, it encompasses the newest business segment of Cummins, where it's focused specifically on zero emission, low emission, and decarbonization strategies. So obviously, the fuel cell and hydrogen technologies are part of this business. So as part of my work, in Mississauga, we work on developing, in my team, we look at MEA technologies for PEM fuel cell and electrolyzer applications.
Okay, super. All right, thank you very much. I guess there was kind of a little topic sentence. In terms of the research or the problem, your guys' target market, as it were, do you want to speak to that just for a couple
Sure.
sentences?
Yeah, sure. So our collaboration as part of this is we're working with Dr. Chigali at University of Quebec at Trois-Rivières. So we're doing development, again, looking at solving problems that we see for next generation MEAs for both the fuel cell and electrolyzer technologies. So for next generation product lines.
Cool, yeah, thank you very much. All right, I'll move over to Ismail Alvar. I hope I'm getting pronunciations correct. As a guy who's had Klippenstein mispronounced a number of ways, I understand the risks here with pronunciation. Ismail, would you like to speak a little bit about yourself, Ballard, and your activities with Mitacs?
Hi everyone, Matthew, your pronunciation was really good. Yeah, this is Ismail Alvar. I'm from Ballard. I've been with Ballard for close to 8 years now. I'm the principal research engineer, as the title says. I'm within R&D team, and we're mainly focusing on the MEA, next-gen MEA development, again, for PEM fuel cell. My responsibility within the R&D team is mainly leading activities around gas diffusion layer. So I'm basically leading all the research, production, manufacturing, field issues, anything related to gas diffusion layer within Ballard. And continuing with the notes from Matthew, the research we're doing, we've been working for a number of years with Eric, and the focus was mainly on basically getting better understanding, visualizing what happens to the water in PEM fuel cell. And this has been going for quite a few years, and there has been a lot of publications out there, even for public, and it has been very fruitful. Yeah.
Super. All right. Thank you very much. Then rounding out the corporate half of this panel, Lucas Sinopoli from Futuri Power. You just let us know a little bit about yourself, Futuri Power, which is probably less well known than Ballard and Cummins, and then some of your activities.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to this panel. I am yes, with Futuri Power. We're doing backup systems and for the residential applications for the houses of the future. And I'm in charge of. I'm the senior firmware developer. A lot of the intelligence of the power converters that drive the electrolyzers and the fuel cells has to be done in firmware, most of it. And so I'm in charge of giving that intelligence to the power modules. I've been participating in with academia and industry for a number of years, formerly with Alpha and Power Lab, Martin Ordóñez Lab at UBC for a number of years. So I've witnessed how fruitful these interactions can be at many levels, and currently as well participating in the same fashion for Futuri Power. So yeah, very excited to be here. Thank you.
All right. Yes. Thank you very much, Lucas. Moving on to the academic trinity here. Eric Kang from Simon Fraser University. You want to introduce yourself, your lab, I guess, at SFU, and some of your collaborations with industry?
Sure. Thank you, Matthew. It's a pleasure to be here. Name's Eric Xiang. I'm a professor in the School of Mechatronic Systems Engineering at Simon Fraser University, or SFU. I'm also Canada Research Chair in Fuel Cell Science and Technology Development. I lead a group called the Fuel Cell Research Lab, FCREL for short, and our research really focuses on fuel cells, electrolyzers, and hydrogen storage within the sector. And as an engineering group, we've worked very closely and widely with industry partners, and we partner with many of the different companies in the sector, some of whom are on the call today. The one I'd like to mention specifically is our Ballard collaboration with Ishmael's introduction previously, where we have been working actually collaboratively with Ballard for 14 years continuously now. So it's a very strong, deep, and effective collaboration that has produced a lot of results and a lot of talents a lot of people in the industry now. So we're pretty excited to be a part of that. And currently, we work on a project that also involves Dr. Majid Barami, my colleague, together with Ismail and others at Ballard, on contributing to a new MEA for heavy-duty fuel cell electric trucks, which addresses the needs for that particular application. For instance, the higher power density requirements, which helps reduce the capital cost of the equipment, the higher fuel cell efficiency, which helps address the fuel cost during the operation, and also the durability requirements, which are quite significant for heavy-duty vehicles. So we, as an academic institution, our main role in this project is really to solve specific problems that need more fundamental understanding, whereas Ballard's role is more on the actual technology development that they put into the products, right? But together, I think this is a very effective way to perform research.
Right. Okay. Thanks. And then moving on to Martin Ordonez at UBC.
Yes. Hi. Good morning. Your pronunciation is good.
Yeah,
We're doing well, Matthew. Thank you for hosting. Hello, everyone. Martin Ordonez from UBC. I'm a professor and Canada researcher here, and I've had many years of collaborations with different companies in the field. We do electrification of everything. That means that we do power conversion for solar power, battery, charger, discharger, fuel cell, electrolyzers. Everybody needs power and power conversion. And it's becoming critical that we do that in an effective manner. And electrolyzers are low voltage, high current, so we need the right power and equipment. Fuel cells are DC sources that have unregulated DC voltage that needs to be converted to AC to supply load. So we work at the interface. Not only the power conversion, but also on the intelligence. And we're working collaboratively with Future Power, with Lucas. And we're working also with other companies. We currently don't have a collaboration with the fuel cell developer, but that's something that we were always open to discuss. I know that Eric and Samaneh, you guys are strictly working on the cells. We're working on all the necessary peripherals and subsystems.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much, Martin. And then turning over to Samaneh Shagaldi, actually, for whom I have an inbox email requiring reply for a number of months now. I'm very sorry about that, Samaneh. One day I'll hit that inbox 0 that my boss keeps talking about. But we'd like to introduce yourself, some of the work you do at the UQTR, and I guess perhaps with Cummins as well.
Sure. So thank you so much for inviting me. Hello, everyone. My name is Samaneh, Associate Professor at University of Quebec and Canada Researcher on Fuel Cell. I'm also Adjunct Associate Professor at University of Waterloo. I joined University of Quebec on January 2021. I consider as a new faculty member. And before that, I was part of Hydrogenics Cummins team working with Dr. Scott on MEA development. And before that, I was working as a research associate at University of Waterloo, working on catalyst development with Ballard for, with the cathode catalyst layer. So today in my team, I have 7 PhD, 4 postdoc, working on different components of fuel cell electrolyzer. Our main partner is Cummins Hydrogenics, or Accelera. I need to use the new name, working with Dr. Scott and team to develop MEA for fuel cell electrolyzer. The overall goal of my team is to bring everything in-house because we believe that we have everything. We have mining, we have raw material, and we have the technology. So we need to bring everything in-house in Canada to make all the component here in Canada rather than going out. So I'm working with coating company, I'm working with mining company, and definitely all of those, the product that we are going to develop, Cummins will be the company that is interested to purchase for the components. So this is the overall goal of my group. I'm very happy to be here with you today.
All right. Well, thank you very much to all of our 6 panelists. There is a roster of questions I will start to go through, but please do text them into the chat as they come up for you fellow attendees. I do also want to mention, wasn't able to get to this at the start, but that at least here in the Metro Vancouver area, CHFCA exists and does business in the traditional unceded territory of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. So as part of our land acknowledgement and other efforts, we hope that we can bring reconciliation and prosperity to Canadians of all origins. First question that I thought might be most appropriate, since hydrogen has been kind of topical, kind of hot for the past couple of years, was on the corporate side for our corporate panelists. What would be the most urgent challenges or barriers to your guys' company's growth? And what programs have been the most helpful, even if they're not like a Mitacs program? It's very helpful for us to know broadly what have been the most effective levers for you guys. And I guess I'll start with Jenny, and then certainly Ismail and Lucas pipe up as if you want to offer contrasts and so forth.
Sure. Thanks for the question, Matthew. I think one of the key things, I mean, with Accelera by Cummins, we're working in both the fuel cell and the PEM electrolyzer space. In both cases, one of the key challenges that we have is infrastructure, right? In order to sell PEM fuel cells and have a wide adoption of PEM fuel cells, you need the infrastructure for refueling. In order to get the infrastructure for refueling, in order to sell, many electrolyzers or hydrogen generation systems, you need to be able to do something with that hydrogen. And so you need the fuel cells out there to be able to adopt those. So, in order to be able to have a widespread adoption of both of those markets, we need to make sure that there's incentives for the infrastructure. And, over the last few years, I think we've seen both across Canada and as well across the US, a lot more government incentives, both provincially, federally, or in the US stateside, to be able to help companies adopt some of these markets or adopt some of these technologies in some of their traditional, in their traditional fleets or in their traditional within their existing infrastructure to try and get hydrogen as part of that. So I think having a lot of these government incentives has helped a lot to be able to get companies to adopt, hey, maybe let's try a new technology, let's try to integrate something that maybe we wouldn't otherwise have jumped into.
Got it. Yeah, thanks. Lucas or Ismail, anything you want to add to that?
I mean, the only thing I could add, which is all true what Jenny said, the cost, and that has been the focus of the Ballard for quite a few years, recent years, just to bring the cost down. There has been a lot of effort, I would say definitely for infrastructure, but the other thing is just basically the cost for PEM fuel cells, especially. And just this is our focus for the last couple of years, just to bring the cost down, which is gonna be approached in different ways. And the volume involves in there, basically you need it's a chicken and egg problem. You need the infrastructure to get to the volume. And the volume is a key thing to bring the cost down, but it's not only volume. There has been a lot of works done even at the current volumes that it has been shown to be really promising to bring the cost down. And I think that that's been on the public news even from Ballard, that what we've been working on. But yeah, that's the only thing I could add to the main challenges that we have.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, Lucas?
Yes, well, I agree with most of the points made by Jenny and Ismaili on incentives, and really one of the big challenges is related to intelligence, the systems that are needed to have to be developed are quite complex. They are multidisciplinary systems, and there's a firmware, there's software, electrical, mechanical, and we require significant talent. So one of the challenges is to find that people. So it's important to have focused funding to accelerate development. Of course, time to market is critical, especially when you have some innovative idea and it's the right time to do it. When it's the right time, it's just the right time. You cannot wait for 2 years. So yeah, funding is a very important aspect. And in terms of talent acquisition, I think, well, this is great. Collaboration with academia makes things a lot easier, and especially when you have a good established relationship with a lab, and they know their people, and they also have done their own recruitment. So you have a pool of talent, and that helps a lot.
Right. So I guess it's not just infrastructure, but also the talent, the bandwidth, maybe of people with the right skills. Just flipping back to the infrastructure for a minute, I have often used in my outreach a comparison between hydrogen and cell phones. In that 40 years ago, 1983 instead of 2023, I don't even think Canada had any cell phone infrastructure yet. There was a little bit around the world, but cell phones were just extremely heavy, awkward, cumbersome, no battery life. They could barely be used because there were very few networks. And so the world, or much of the world, focused on landlines, which already had complete infrastructure. There were like payphones every few hundred meters on major streets. And I guess infamously, McKinsey told AT&T to forget about cell phones because they would only be like 900,000 users by the year 2000. And in fact, worldwide, it was about 700 million. And AT&T wound up, again, I'm turning into an old man right in front of you, but AT&T wound up panic buying a cell phone network from a fellow named John McCall, who later bought the Vancouver Canucks and I think possibly part of the Vancouver Grizzlies. Anyway, there's a Vancouver tie to that story. In terms of infrastructure, as we build it, we'll have more business opportunities. We'll discover even more ways of using clean hydrogen. Just flipping on one side, we did have what Lucas was mentioning, the availability of personnel or of people with the right skills to be able to join companies as Mitacs interns, but also as full-time employees later on. I want to check in with Eric, Martin, and Samane in terms of like what some of the benefits of working with the industry are. Like, do you guys see it in terms of attracting your own very qualified grad students or the students' own development? Maybe I'll start. Oh, go ahead.
Sure. Okay. So maybe I start. So I think collaborating with industry allows us to work on research problem and projects that have direct applications in the real world. And this relevance can lead to more impactful research outcome and give more motivation, especially for PhD and postdoc, when they see that their research, has an impact, direct impact on the industry and the real today's world and the people's living. So on the other hand, when we have the industrial partner beside the financial part, we can benefit from collaboration with industry experts like Dr. Scott's and team, who brings different perspective and insight. The comments, suggestion, different point of view help us to reach the milestone and accelerate the research. And I think, and plus that it gives us through the academia, it gives us more visibility, because if we don't have industrial partner, the research is just fundamental research. And, that I think these are the advantages that we have through this partnership with industry and academic.
I know we have a short panel discussion. There is a long list of advantages. I think it's very important that if any of the companies, and I know we have in the audience, if you find a faculty member that is aligned with the topics that your company is developing, is really helpful to approach and have a discussion there. Is really mutually beneficial for universities and companies to work together. It creates much more focused research with application that it's really engineering and R&D as an economic engine, and the creation of job opportunities for the students that will graduate is really, if done properly, there is an incredible synergy and a lot to gain and enjoy from the collaborative work. So I would say that at a high level. And another, I think that a critical requirement is true involvement. Is that the folks in industry really drop by the lab, they're really integrated into what's happening, and they have real interaction with the students, and that creates long-term benefits and a tremendous pipeline of talent. That has been my experience, and in a nutshell. And sorry, one more thing is something important also for the companies, is that we are here for the journey, not the final destination. We never know what the research results will be, which makes it very interesting.
Yeah, so I completely agree with what Simone and Martin just said. Main point being that the industry collaborations really enhance the effectiveness of the research. Two other points, perhaps. One is that I feel like many times the industry partner also contributes expertise that tends to be complementary to the expertise that we have at the universities, right? So by bringing that to the table, they also sort of enrich the quality of the research by having regular interactions, right? And another point is on the student training. The training is a lot stronger in these cases because there's both a broader range of training elements that are being tapped into, but also I think in a way it's a deeper training element by really showcasing how innovation can be done collaboratively, which sets them up for both industry and academic and any research-oriented position in the future.
Got it. That actually builds into an interesting interesting question, which is, as a number of you have been doing these collaborations for several years, have you seen the changes in this innovation ecosystem in terms of how companies and academia sort of work together, or maybe develop new ties? Have you noticed things that are different, today in 2023 versus say 2010 era or something like that? And this is open to everyone, I guess. I can start with Eric because he's been doing this for, I think, 14 years now. So 14 iPhones ago, I suppose.
Yeah, it's been a few iPhones, and yeah, I guess my academic career as a few really covers exactly that period. Since I started in 2009.
You look great. I haven't seen you.
Times have really changed. I think some of the main changes over this period has been that although the technology was strong even back in 2009 or 10, the demand has really changed. So there's a lot more urgent demand for the technology now and bringing it into the market and capitalizing on the opportunities for zero emission use cases and emission reductions that this technology enables. And as a result, the government is stepping in more significantly. Like, I think there was much more uncertainty in the past. We don't feel that anymore. Like, now it's how quickly can we move? And one big factor, I think, in recent years has been the establishment of the national hydrogen strategy, and then subsequently some provincial hydrogen strategies, such as the one in BC, that really make that clear to everybody that the government and the society as a whole is really behind this technology and wants to see this being developed. Yeah, thanks.
That's cool.
A decade back, when I started at UBC, things like massive, wildfires, atmospheric rivers, polar vortex, Arctic fronts, heat domes, those were not common. Now they're very common. The pressure is maximum. We need to do something about this. And yes, like Eric said, there are more opportunities. We're hoping things are going to align very nicely, and we can get technology and products out of the door to mitigate what we're facing right now. But it's the level of urgency is maximum.
For
The
sure.
only thing I can add, I know, Matthew, even you've been in this industry for so long. Speaking of time, I feel like now is a lot different than 10 years ago. Even just speaking of Canada, there was only a few number of companies working on fuel cell, but now there's a lot more. There is a steady flow of talent with changing business card every other year. And the problem we're having even at Ballard, just speaking of Ballard, like if you break down of the breakdown of employees with 10 years or senior people, which are supposed to train or onboard the new talents, it's getting less and less. So the senior people are also more busy. So one of the challenges that we're facing is that when new talents becoming on board, it's challenging to hook them up with more senior people to get them trained and get them up to speed. So having an academic collaborator, which brings people up to speed, and they're coming to Ballard with a level of understanding of the industry, because that's key, because you get a talent which has been only working in academia, or get a talent which has been for 4 or 5 years already exposed to industry. That's a big difference. And the real proof is I have quite a few number of colleagues right now at R&D, which is coming from Eric's group. And that has been a steady flow for a number of years, because when they come, they're already almost trained, and you're just letting them know all the details, and the onboarding is a lot easier. And that's been a challenge in the recent years, because we're having a steady flow of talents, and getting them on board is not easy.
Got it. I guess that's kind of a nice problem to have among many problems a company might have. But I can appreciate that there's kind of I think maybe 3 years ago, government started around 4 years ago now, government started to look at aiming for net zero. And as soon as you aim for net zero, you need a phenomenal amount of hydrogen. And so there's been this great big recognition policy-wise that hydrogen fuel cells aren't sort of trivial curiosities, but they're core climate solutions. Maybe having heard from the academic side, maybe Jenny, do you want to speak to Cummins' experience? I guess I'm not sure if you were a co-worker with Samane earlier, but there's kind of an interesting opportunity to see both sides of that relationship.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I did work directly with Samane before she started at University of Quebec. So I mean, what I could say is that some the problems are still the same problems. I think it's just a matter of ultimately how quickly are we trying to tackle them. And in terms of change over the last few years, or change in the ecosystem over the last few years, during that transition to academia. I think I just would echo the sense of urgency, to get a lot of these technologies or new technologies to market, due to the climate change, due to the changing policies that are out there right now in terms of trying to move to a decarbonization type of environment. I think the pressure is on compared to what it was before, and being able to accelerate and tackle a lot of these problems quickly is something that obviously industry is always interested to do, because we want to get products to market very quickly. And having academic partners that understand sort of the complexities and the sense of urgency is very key in order to being able to get solutions quickly.
All right. I guess somebody, I guess if you have anything to add, happy to hear you. Otherwise, I'll just move on slightly. In terms of so in terms of collaborating, it's like we have this this pipeline, or kind of almost an apprenticeship, I suppose. Maybe this is a university master's degree equivalent of apprenticeship programs where you do have the ability for the researcher to make sure they're working on the most relevant items from the industry, as opposed to, you know, still very valuable research which might not be as applicable. In terms of the partnership, the types of partnerships, I imagine that you know, say a Ballard or a Cummins or Accelera rather, will work with a number of other groups, not just the universities mentioned here. But have you seen any like interesting specific dynamics develop between your collaborators, like maybe a symbiosis kind of a thing? Maybe I'll point that one to, I guess, Eric first.
Sure. I mean, a lot of interesting dynamics have occurred. I won't get into details, but we have seen, you know, sort of a lot of developments over the years, and we've reached this kind of critical mass, which is really great. Or, you know, we see each other almost daily, and we have interactions on numerous different projects going in parallel, and you know, things are progressing really well. And I think one part of that is really, I think, being open to sharing information both ways. It's really critical. Of course, we're not looking at understanding any you know, confidential details, but I think usually for the students to be able to not only work at the university, but also on site at the company labs and locations, and being able to approach the staff and the experts at the company with questions, right? And not be afraid of doing that, right? So a lot of those interactions actually happen between the students and their industry co-supervisors on site. And I think being able to work on site is really important to facilitate that communication, since it might be, you know, passing someone in the hallway or meeting somebody in the lab, as opposed to you know, sitting back on campus. You're much more unlikely to be able to find those people.
Got it. That actually makes me think of a sort of a bit of a follow-on, again, in terms of finding and connecting. Perhaps Lucas, Futuri Power isn't as well known as Ballard or Accelera or / Cummins. And I'm wondering if you could maybe speak to your guys' experience on like how would younger companies or smaller companies you know, start off making these relationships? What might some of the barriers or opportunities be that you could highlight there? You know, many of our 190 odd members tend to be smaller companies who could maybe most easily leverage the contributions of Mitacs scholars. And I think even Marcelo had highlighted an example from Hydra Energy, for example. So maybe from the you know, not yet brand name, you know, famous brand perspective, could you speak to what your experience has been with Mitacs collaborations?
Yes. Well, smaller companies are very agile and dynamic. You know, teams are small. There's not a lot of processes in place, so we can, you know, do things a lot faster, less bureaucracy. I've worked in larger companies as well, and it's a radical difference. In our case, we have strong collaboration with UBC, and that makes things a lot easier. And as well, you know, both Martin and I have participated in these type of collaborations for a number of years. So I guess that that is a little, you know, makes everything faster and easier. I haven't had experience in a small company when people want to engage for the first time with universities, and how are they able to do that. So I couldn't speak to that. But one thing that I wanted to mention that is an interesting fact I see is that you mentioned like apprenticeship, masters as university side apprenticeship, and I think that it gets more interesting in PhD students, because of course the PhD by nature has a research focus, and the publication system and everything is oriented to do research, and when the research is constrained by industry, it adds a different flavor. So I think that's I guess a decision on the principal investigator on how to direct the research group, having more of an industry focus or having more of a research focus. And I think it's a I don't know, I'm curious about how that is changing, because of course if it's academic focus, then it's more limited, the job market, and I think that more and more students are actually looking forward to going into industry in the situation. So, yeah.
Okay. I do want to turn to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. No, I just wanted to make a comment that startup companies, youngsters are very excited about startup companies. There is a, I would say, for the young generations, being part of a startup company and having impact is quite appealing. So I would say that in the same way, it is very exciting, for the new generations to work with companies like Accelera or Ballard. Startup companies are also incredibly appealing. It's about the team culture, is about the vision. There are multiple things that make it a very good option. So for the audience, whether you are a large corporation or a small startup company, don't be shy. There is a long list of top talent that could probably fit within the portfolio that you have.
Right,
yes.
right. Yeah, and I'm sure Marcelo would be happy to follow up with anyone on the call afterwards. Before we move to audience questions, get your keyboard typing hands ready. I did want to follow up with Samane actually, because in UQTR probably isn't as famous or well known for its hydrogen-related work. And so you might have kind of a unique experience of not being as well known on the academic side even, but also from your prior experience, working from a company and accessing or leveraging it. So could you speak from the university side of what unintentional barriers or what hurdles you might face in being able to connect with companies who could really use your students' expertise?
That is a challenging question, actually. Oh. So we are located at UQTR. We have Hydrogen Research Institute inside UQTR that founded back 1994. Is actually one of the first hydrogen research institute in North America focusing just on hydrogen. So back those days, they had a lot of fun, a lot of activity on hydrogen, and over time, the governmental fund start decreasing, and the activity decreased over time. So we are not looking, I say, active as supposed to be over there. But I'm not sure if you guys participated in fuel cell seminar in Long Beach. That is one of the most reputable fuel cell conference. When they are starting their presentation, they all the time, the first slide about where hydrogen research start. Our Hydrogen Research Institute is located there in those slides, that they are showing that our institute is there. So there are a lot of activities in our institute in terms of fuel cell electrolyzer. But on the other hand, I don't know how can I put it the majority of the students that we have are international students coming from different countries, and sometimes one of the barriers is the French language over there. So because the students are speaking, the majority of them are speaking English, and then when they are coming there, so we don't have that, part of the, it takes time for a student to be familiar with the culture, with the language. However, the government give them really good opportunity to participate in the French classes, and they are paying them to learn French.
Right.
But in terms of the collaboration with industry, exactly like when you describe our university, so we don't have that much visibility. I'm not sure where it comes from, but it seems that we, as a hydrogen research institute, we are doing a lot of good research over there. We have a big team on hydrogen storage, on electrolyzer, on engineering part, on the science part. But unfortunately, we didn't have those visibility. We start doing a lot of activity. We have innovation zone in our city, and I wish that, we find a good place soon in terms of academic point of view. Okay, so regarding the challenges that we have in terms of the collaboration with the companies. So for a startup, I found that the majority of the time, startup have a problem with the funding. So they don't have fund to come to us, and because for majority of the time, if you want to apply for a fund, the company needs to put cash contribution, So I wish that government do something to accept in-kind contribution in order that the startup company also can collaborate with the academic, just rather than just big company. They are in a good point of financial position. Yeah.
That is a really, that's something, I've worked at startups, but I hadn't thought of the possibility of negotiating some sort of flexibility around cash versus other contributions. Of course, from wearing Marcelo's hat or the Mitacs hat, I'm sure there's a need for the government to make sure the in-kind contributions are valued. But that is interesting, and also seeing the the phenomenon in academia, where it's not just corporate startups or corporate folks who are angling or jostling for attention, well-deserved attention, but on the academic side as well. As usual, I've kind of blown past the initial time schedule, and I do want to get to a question that was posed quite early on by, I think it was Giovanni Guerrero, who was asking the challenges to scalability for materials to help with the development of infrastructure. I'm guessing this might be like an iridium for PEM electrolyzers type question. So I don't know if Jenny or Samane, I guess you guys might be closest to the electrolyzer side. Do you guys have any quick words for Giovanni?
Hi, everyone.
Oh.
So, yeah, the question is because when I worked with PhD students and such, when we're bringing new technologies in, they don't seem to have an idea of scalability. Their ideas, they're very novel, they're very cool, but I'm having a hard time when I'm finding talent in this area to have that practicality and scalability mindset when they're doing their research. Like, having a 90% scrap rate is not acceptable when you're building anything. So and I find that's been the last time I worked at academia was about 5 years ago. So with now the demand for the talent coming up, how can academia help more into coming into industry? Because on the industry side, to try and bring these guys up to speed, like Ismail said, it has to be. We don't have enough senior people; they're all retiring now to help have that kind of give them a crash course in that. And I think both are important, but for companies, it's hard to spend like $1 million and get very little benefit in the research, right? Like, so it's always that. And now with the changes in the demand for hydrogen, that That's we're still very sensitive to that in terms of trying to get all of these great products into the market. So how can academia help with to help kind of help with bridging those gaps?
Wow, so you even talking about like human bandwidth, even not just like, do we have enough copper supplies? I want to let our panelists answer. I'm kind of frenzied on the time here. We do have an effort internally at CHFCA, at least on the Hydrogen BC side, to try to pull together what the training needs would be for everyone from like gas fitters or boiler makers, the skilled trades, all the way through, PhD students, to make sure that we aren't held back by a limited in the number of trained people who have the skills that will be needed as we do build the infrastructure. So that's a valid point. I see that James had also noted that technical students don't always have much of a business background. Probably why they chose the technical stuff, or because they chose the technical stuff, but wanted to acknowledge that. Just before we go, maybe would anyone like to speak to efforts to scale up? Perhaps Esmail, you already noted earlier that there's a lot more new people coming into the sector than old guard, the gray-haired folks who can mentor them. Maybe do you have any other comments to that, or ways you found to mitigate that?
So I trying to find the unmute button. I know, actually, I'm just trying to think what I can say, but it's pretty much, I mean, having that perspective, that's exactly the key in the collaboration, because basically having an industry co-supervisor, and basically you're going to do, students are doing their research, but having someone with industry perspective, that's basically going to bring that on, because you're going to have ideas and you're going to flush those ideas, because if you're brainstorming to find a solution for a problem, obviously there's going to be multiple avenues to address that problem. And there's going to be some which are not as scalable and some are scalable. And basically having that industry supervisor by your side, which they have the industry basically perspective, they will basically bring that on with you. And if I look at from the industry way, usually going back, there are high reward, high gain activities. And then high risk, what am I saying? High risk, high reward activities, which basically, when industries are looking at the technology, there's going to be, we use as a term of TRL, technology readiness level. So we're looking at different technologies and they are at different readiness level. And there are activities that they are high gain, but they are high risk for industry, which doesn't to invest now the cash on. Well, we know that they're going to be key in 5 years. And those are really perfect fit for academia to attack those, where we could leverage the understanding and help us along the way to achieve those, but also have a balance of innovation and scalability. I think that balance is key, because you don't want to kill new ideas because you think now they are not scalable, which might be in 5 years. So I think we have to keep that balance perfectly, just to do not lose the chances.
Sure, I'll pass it over to Eric. We just have 2 minutes left, but if you can make it quick, Eric, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, just building on that. As an engineering group, we a significant part of what we do actually addresses scalability of different technologies and solutions for production, really, in the sector. And we've taken steps to implement laboratory resources and equipment and procedures that are intended to be lab scale replicates of industrial processes, so that we can fabricate small samples using industry relevant and scalable methods, so that we can shorten the time that it might take for those innovations to go into production and market.
Okay, cool. So thank you very much. We're like at 9:59 here right now. So I would just like to thank all of our panelists, as well as Marcelo and Mitacs for helping us pull off this webinar on collaborative innovation. If you have any questions going forward, please let us know. Perhaps Nicholas perhaps might have sent out the invite. There's someone wanting a connection to one of the panelists, so we can try and provide that. Thank you all so very much. And if there are other thoughts that occur to you on the collaboration or even on the training side, please do let us know. You know, most of us have tons of emails to go through, but we don't want to miss any opportunities to improve or raise to government topics which may improve the collaborative process, turn more research into more revenues. So thank you all very much on behalf of CHFCA, and hope you have a great rest of day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.